The road, the ultimate symbol of civilization, an artery connecting point A to point B. It is designed for predictability and control. Consider the Appian Way, built in 312 BC, a symbol of the Roman Empire's stability and order. Now imagine that on this timeless road, your GPS suddenly starts displaying a 19th century map. But what if, on certain stretches of these arteries, the laws of our reality cease to apply? Around the world, drivers tell stories of highways where navigators go haywire. Time flows differently, and the familiar landscape outside the window transforms into something alien. These are not tales from distant jungles, but from the familiar asphalt beneath our wheels. The ghost road is not one phenomenon, but two, much like the difference between a software glitch and a hardware error in the matrix of our reality. The first is paranormal, busy highways where people encounter phantom vehicles or experience inexplicable time slips. This is a glitch in the code. The second is physical, abandoned stretches of highway and bridges to nowhere, left by humans and reclaimed by nature. This is the hardware that has been disconnected from the network and left to rust. Both types of roads are portals, but they lead to different destinations, one into the depths of the psyche, the other into a forgotten past. Throughout history, humanity has feared the dark forest, the boundless ocean, and uncharted lands. The ancient Greeks feared Scylla and Charybdis, and medieval cartographers drew Hic sunt draconi, here be dragons, on their maps. Today, however, the very infrastructure built for safety and speed has become a source of this primal fear. We have replaced dragons with phantom trucks and sea monsters with time slips. Why have roads, the symbols of progress and connection, become the stage for our most ancient fears of the unknown and of being lost in time and space? Take, for example, the legendary Route 66, America's Mother Road. Its abandoned sections, especially after it was decommissioned from the highway system in 1985, became the backdrop for stories about souls from the Great Depression era. Here, nostalgia mixes with tales of encounters with a past that refuses to die. And on the border of Missouri and Oklahoma, for over a century, people have witnessed the spooklight, a mysterious glowing orb whose origin has never been explained. This is a road where history is so alive that you can sometimes meet it in person. Let's travel to misty Scotland. A section of the A75 highway is officially recognized as the most haunted in the country. A textbook case occurred in 1962 when the Ferguson brothers reported that their car was attacked by flying chickens, and then they saw a giant cat and furniture hovering in midair. Dozens of documented testimonies from truck drivers and police officers speak of figures running toward them, only to vanish right before impact. This is not just folklore, but a modern chronicle of anomalies. A tunnel is a road in its most concentrated form, an enclosed space with nothing but the path forward. In Switzerland's Belchen Tunnel, opened in the 1970s, dozens of drivers have reported seeing a white lady. An old woman in white suddenly appears in the car, says something like, "Something terrible is about to happen to me," and then vanishes just as suddenly. This phenomenon became so well known that it spawned an entire urban legend. Near Moscow, there is the so-called Litkarinskaya Road, rumored to be built on an old cemetery. Drivers tell of strange silhouettes on the roadside and of ghostly traffic police officers who pull over cars and then dissolve into thin air, sometimes along with the ticket they just wrote. This story is a classic example of how modern infrastructure can clash with the memory of a place. The geography of these stories is vast, but their details are strikingly similar. A lonely road, the dead of night, monotonous driving. Before attributing everything to mysticism, it's worth understanding what happens to the human brain under these conditions. Our brain is a powerful projector. Deprived of clear external images, it begins to project images from the depths of the subconscious, archetypes and fears, onto the screen of the windshield. The most powerful generator of ghosts may be sitting right behind the wheel. Every driver knows the feeling. You arrive at your destination with absolutely no memory of the last few miles. This isn't a memory lapse, but highway hypnosis, a phenomenon described as early as 1921. The brain switches to autopilot. Driving skills function perfectly, but the recording of events is nearly shut off. Consciousness recedes, and the line between reality and dream blurs. At night on an empty highway, the brain finds itself in a state of sensory deprivation. The monotonous hum of the engine, the darkness outside, the occasional flash of light. It's almost a laboratory Ganzfeld experiment, where a person's eyes are covered and white noise is fed into their ears. Deprived of external signals, the brain begins to generate its own. It tries to complete reality from the void, and in this emptiness, auditory and visual images are born. Physical factors also come into play. Low-frequency sound, or infrasound, which we cannot hear but can feel, can be generated by wind or a running engine. A frequency of around 19 Hz, known as the fear frequency, coincides with the resonant frequency of the human eye. It can cause vibrations in the eyeballs, creating the illusion of dark figures in one's peripheral vision. This is where that inexplicable feeling of anxiety, the sense of a presence, often originates. And if a road already has a reputation for being cursed, psychology takes over. Our brain acts less like a dashcam, and more like a lawyer seeking evidence to support an existing theory. Any shadow or GPS glitch will be immediately interpreted in favor of the legend. Today, the internet transforms these local stories into global memes, preconditioning our minds for an encounter with the unexplained. Psychology and physics explain a great deal. Fleeting visions, feelings of panic. A skeptic might recall the phenomenon of induced delusion, where one person's hallucination is transmitted to another. But these theories fall silent when two or more witnesses, independently of each other, see the same thing. Or when drivers report lost hours of time, a loss confirmed by their own watches. Here we enter the realm of anomalies that are harder to dismiss as tricks of the imagination. One of the most unsettling anomalies is lost time. A driver follows a route that usually takes an hour, only to discover upon arrival that 3 hours have passed, or the reverse. It's like watching a movie from which someone has discreetly cut 20 minutes, or inserted an entire hour of blank frames. This is not just highway hypnosis. It's an objective discrepancy between the distance traveled and the time taken, which calls into question the very consistency of reality. In 1979, two British couples traveling through France got lost and found themselves on a strange, narrow cobblestone road. Known as the Montélimar incident, they saw an old-fashioned hotel, a circus with 19th century posters, and gendarmes in outdated uniforms. Frightened, they drove away. When they returned later, they found no trace of what they had seen. The case became a textbook example of a time slip, where a road seemed to lead not to another town, but to another era. The legend of a traveler who asks for a ride and then vanishes from the back seat is known worldwide. This archetype is called the vanishing hitchhiker, and folklorist John Harold Brunvand has classified dozens of its variations. It is a modern adaptation of ancient myths about encountering the supernatural at a crossroads. Often the ghost leaves behind an object, a scarf or a book, or reveals information that is later confirmed, turning a simple tall tale into unsettling testimony. There is also the reverse situation, encounters with vehicles that shouldn't exist. These might be cars of outdated models moving in complete silence and disappearing around bends, or mysterious black sedans with no license plates that aggressively pursue a driver. They are a direct descendant of the Men in Black mythology, transposed onto the asphalt. Phantom classic cars are a kind of mechanized ghost, where the spirit is tied not to a person but to an object, an icon of its era. Here, the fear is not of a person, but of technology itself behaving contrary to the laws of physics. These stories push the boundaries of what is possible. But there is another type of ghost road, those that are real, tangible, and abandoned. If paranormal highways are stories of a glitch in reality, then abandoned roads are stories about the death of a part of that reality. They don't lead to another time, but they serve as a powerful reminder of the fragility of our world. Exploring them reveals a completely different side of this story. Across the globe, there are thousands of miles of roads that were built but never opened. In urban planning, there is an informal term for such projects, stub-outs. It's as if a surgeon began an operation, attached an artery to nothing, and walked away, leaving it to wait for an organ that would never arrive. Economic crises, engineering miscalculations, shifting political plans. The reasons vary. The result is the same: perfect asphalt, bridges, and interchanges that lead to a dead end, slowly being consumed by nature. They are scars on the face of the planet. A perfect example is a 13-mile abandoned stretch of the Pennsylvania Turnpike. Known as the abandoned Pennsylvania Turnpike, this section was closed in 1968. Bypassing it was cheaper than modernizing its old tunnels. Today, the location where the post-apocalyptic film The Road was shot has become a mecca for explorers and photographers. A walk along it is a literal journey into the past, where you can see the ambitions of the mid-20th century frozen in time. Sometimes, the ghostly quality manifests in a single detail. In Belgium, near the city of Charleroi, a concrete overpass stands in the middle of the busy E42 highway, ending abruptly in midair. It is part of a grand interchange project that was frozen due to the 1973 oil crisis. For the thousands of drivers who pass under it every day, it is a surreal monument to incompletion, a symbol of broken infrastructural logic. These physical ghost roads are a powerful metaphor. They are modern Ozymandiases, the concrete ruins of our recent past. They symbolize unfulfilled dreams, collapsed plans, and a civilization that could stop and regress at any moment. Unlike paranormal roads, their ghostliness is not frightening but melancholic. They remind us that any path can end in a dead end. Anthropologists use the term liminal space to describe such transitional states. Arnold van Gennep introduced it in 1909 when speaking of threshold stages and rites of passage. Airports, hallways, staircases, and of course roads. These are non-places where we temporarily shed our usual social roles. We are no longer an engineer or a teacher, we are simply a traveler. In such spaces, the usual rules are relaxed. A road is an artificial corridor cut through a wild landscape, a thin film of asphalt separating us from the chaos of nature. At night, this civilizational membrane becomes almost permeable. It lies on the border between two worlds, the orderly world of humans and the irrational world of the elements. On a road at night, we find ourselves in this border zone where, according to ancient beliefs, encounters with the other world take place. So why the road? Because it combines all the key elements: movement, speed, isolation, and the state of being in between. A car on a highway at night is not a fortress, but an isolated capsule, a submersible descending into an ocean of darkness. We are protected, yet completely cut off from the world. It is a place where we are most vulnerable, disconnected from home and familiar surroundings. It is in this vulnerability that our minds and our culture find space for ancient fears, cloaking them in a new technological form. Ancient heroes embarked on journeys through forests or across seas to meet monsters and gods. Odysseus sailed past the island of the Sirens. Jason guided his ship through clashing rocks. Modern man drives on the highway. But the essence of the journey has not changed. The ghost road is the modern embodiment of the mythological perilous path, the crossroads where one might meet their destiny or lose their soul. So what is a ghost road? It is not one single thing. It is a complex phenomenon, a point where three forces converge: the fog of our psychology, the wind of physical anomalies, and the deep currents of ancient myths. It is our own brain, prone to self-deception in monotonous settings. It is real phenomena like infrasound. And of course, it is our cultural need for blank spots to exist on the map of the rational world. Ultimately, these stories say more about us than they do about the roads themselves. At night, a dark windshield acts as a mirror. As we peer into the path ahead, we are actually seeing a reflection of our own deep-seated anxieties, the fear of getting lost, the fear of loneliness, and the fear of the fragility of our technological world. Every story of a phantom hitchhiker is a story of our own existential solitude inside a metal box, hurtling through the darkness. We live in an age of GPS and satellite maps, where it seems there are no uncharted places left on the planet. But the phenomenon of ghost roads proves otherwise. Our navigator can show us the shortest route, but it doesn't show the vertical dimensions, the depths of history beneath the asphalt, and the heights of myth above it. The unknown is not a territory but a state of being. Even on the straightest, most well-lit highway, there is a chance of taking a wrong turn and ending up somewhere your GPS is powerless. These stories are a reminder that no matter how much we try to pave over the world, beneath the thin layer of civilization will always lie an ancient, incomprehensible, and sometimes frightening reality. And the most important question is not whether these roads exist, but what we will do if we one day find ourselves on one.